Good evening, fellow commissioners and public. I'd like to call the Bloomington Historic Preservation Commission meeting to order for Thursday, September 24th, 2020. And again, thank you for attending this evening. Dee, can you do a roll call?
Doug Bruce, Sam DeSaller, Susan Dyer, Jeff Golden,
Here.
Deb Hutton,
Here.
Lee Sandweiss,
Here.
John Saunders,
Here.
Chris Sturbaum,
Here.
Duncan Campbell,
Here.
Ernesto Castaneda, Derek Ritchie,
Here.
Jenny Southern.
All right, great, thank you. All right, let's move on. Approval for the minutes from our last meeting.
So moved.
Well, we need a motion, Jeff.
I move to approve.
Thank you, Jeff.
Second.
Great, thank you, Lee. All right, Dee.
Jeff Golden,
Yes.
Deb Hutton,
Yes.
Lee Sandweiss,
Abstain.
John Saunders,
Yes.
Chris Sturbaum.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0-1.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to certificate of appropriateness, COA 20-36, 600 South Woodlawn Avenue.
So this is a continuation from the last commission meeting on September 10th. The commissioners asked Mr. Kiefer to return with some more information on how the porch addition will be constructed. I do want to note that there's been a slight change of plans. Mr. Kiefer has listened to the commission and staff and kind of minimize the profile of the steel columns by reducing from 4x4 columns to 2x2 columns. They'll be square painted black. Staff recommends approval of COA 2036 as the petitioner has returned with the additional information, as you can see here. So staff would recommend approval.
Great, thank you. Okay, Joel, you're with us?
Yes, sir.
All right, do you have anything else you want to add before we start?
No, we drew that side elevation with the smaller column as Connor mentioned, so I think we're good.
All right, thanks, Joel. Chris, do you have any questions?
No.
Jeff?
No question.
Deb?
No questions.
Lee?
No questions.
Derek?
Nope, no questions.
Duncan?
Nope.
All right, and I haven't got any questions here. Let's move on to comments. Chris?
No.
Jeff?
I support this.
Good luck.
Thank you. Deb?
Thank you.
No comments.
Great. Lee?
No comment.
Derek?
Nope.
Duncan?
No, I don't have any comment.
And I haven't got anything to add.
Public comments.
So do we have any public comments? All right, hearing none. I need a motion.
Move to approve COA 20-36.
I'll second.
All right. Dee?
Jeff Golden,
Yes.
Deb Hutton,
Yes.
Lee Sandweiss,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
Chris Sturbaum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0-0.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna move on to demolition delay.
Thank you, guys.
We're gonna start with 20-17, 424.5 South Walnut Street. Connor?
Okay, so before we begin, I want to just put a disclaimer out there. The petitioner, Josh Alley, earlier today asked me to remove the item from the agenda and that the HPC not take any action until October 8th. He said that we would like to table our petition until the next meeting to allow you to get all the materials we sent into the packet. We would like to be moved to the October 8th agenda. I told Josh that I wouldn't remove an item from the agenda the day of the meeting, and that it was the prerogative of the commission to decide whether or not that they discuss or take action on the item. So that's up to you guys. I just wanted to put that out there that that was what the petitioner told me today. And I do want to remind the commission of the proper procedure for designating a building that isn't a demolition delay review. I know we've made some errors in the past, and so I just want to run over the process again really quickly. First, the HPC must make the motion to begin formal review for historic designation. What this does is it instructs staff to write a report, a formal report that justifies why the building meets that criteria. In addition, it instructs staff to send written notice to adjacent property owners to inform them that a meeting will take place where action on the designation may occur. And that meeting is usually the next HPC meeting, so 2 weeks down the road. And then at that meeting, the HPC may then make the motion to forward to the Common Council for designation and place another separate motion to place the item under interim protection. So that's just the procedure. It's kind of like a 3-step process here that happens between 2 different meetings. So I just wanted to reiterate that. And one final thing, I want to remind the commission that any images you see tonight of the potential new building should not be factored into your decision to demolish or save 424 South Walnut. This is so for several reasons. Reason 1, the petitioner is not obligated to build anything in the wake of this building's demolition. Number 2, events can happen that forestall or make it impossible for the petitioner to build. And number 3, if new construction does happen, the petitioner is not obligated to follow any design shown today to the commission. So I just kind of wanted to reiterate that if you see some proposed designs, that should not factor in your decision.
So Connor, I have a question.
Sure.
If we did postpone it another 2 weeks, I know we talked about this earlier, would there still be time to do the process in the right way?
Yes.
Excellent.
But that would be, it would have to be started at the next meeting on October 8th. That would be the absolute.
We'd have to do it on the 8th.
Unless you wanted to have a special meeting, then we could get together even sooner than waiting the 2 weeks. But the deadline, the 90-day deadline is October 30th.
Great, thank you, Connor.
So I believe that this is pretty important to both sides, and that to be able to see all the information is important. So I'm in favor of postponing this to the next meeting.
Okay. Do we want to hear from Josh first? I'm in agreement with everybody, but maybe we should hear from the petitioner that that's what he really wants to do.
Yes. Like to hear that.
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm on here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can.
Yep.
All right. And part of the rationale for me requesting that is we submitted a lot of petitions. I know at the last meeting, some of our petitions weren't included. And so there was, I think Mr. Ritchie asked he wanted more public comment. And so there's obviously been a lot of public comment, and I know when we requested that those be included in the packet today, we were told that we didn't submit them in a timely manner, so that's why they were excluded. And so to be fair, I just wanted those, and so that's why I asked for the delay. And so that's where that comes from. So yeah, my request is still, if we can push this to the 8th, I'd like all the material that we submitted to be included in the packet so the public can see what was in it.
Okay, thank you, Josh. All right, Jeff, you have mentioned that you would be in favor of postponing this to the next meeting.
So I'd like to make that official motion.
All right.
show today.
Right.
I have some questions. Is there a time to ask those? Is that after the motion?
Well, Jeff has a motion on the floor. And so we need to accept it or not.
He needs a second.
You can second the motion and then you can discuss.
I'll second Deb's motion.
All right. Thank you, Lee. Okay, now we're open for discussion. So, Chris, you have questions?
Yeah, question one. We've never done this before. Other cities have. Designating the facade only as a possibility. I want to know if that's something that we could consider.
I don't think so. I think it's the building or not. I don't know. Maybe Philippa can comment on that. Is there language in Title 8 to allow us to designate the front of a building or part of a building? Maybe there is. Philippa?
I'm not aware of any. That doesn't mean that you couldn't strike a deal with the petitioner to preserve the facade.
Duncan?
And actually, hey guys, this is Josh again. And that's one of our questions. And we believe that we found one of the earliest pictures of this actual Players Pub. And so I know a lot of discussions. If you would, Connor, do you mind putting up the picture that I sent earlier?
That's the earliest photo of the Players Pub there.
Actually, I don't think it is. And so if you'll allow me to share my screen, that one. And the reason I say that is because the picture that you had up there earlier was from 1951. And we actually found this on Facebook from one of the public history sites. And so that car right there is probably a 1942 or 1943 Chevy. And so that's where I'm basing my conclusion. And if you'll notice, there's no M on the building. The portion to the right, the vestibule, is obviously either been added or different. The windows, it looks like there's planter boxes in there. The windows are obviously different than what's on there today. And so and Chris, it's not that we're opposed to trying to work something out between what we'd like to do and what's there currently. It's just, from a historical perspective, we don't know which time in history that people are trying to save, because there's obviously been many variations of this building over time. There's several different variations of brick. There's a picture that we found that we believe to be the earliest one that isn't even brick. And so, and then, there's no M on this building, which we've had a whole lot of discussion around the Mitchell brothers. I mean, you guys know that we own 2 of those Mitchell properties and we've restored them. But this appears to be the only, if it was a Mitchell building, which I don't even know that that's the case. I'm not sure that they built it or if they restored it or if they did something to it down the road. But this is the only Mitchell building that I've ever seen that doesn't have brick on all 4 sides. And so it's vastly different from anything else that's out there. It's vastly different from the ones that I have. It's vastly different from those houses that you guys showed at the last meeting. And so that's the confusion. I'm not sure, I guess, what we're trying to do.
Okay. I see that picture. I tend to think that the one that we saw before is an older photo, because the vestibule wasn't built at that time. And there's also a side entry that's been shut off in the photo you got, Josh. And the awning was added also across the front.
Well, there's no door in the other picture, and there's no way to prove that there was an M in this picture either, sir, in with respect. So
I'll comment on that, Josh. I have an email from the son of Henry Boxman who lived in this building here. And he said that there was always an M on the building, and his dad said the M stood for mortgage.
So it doesn't even stand for Mitchell. But I mean, then we didn't doctor this picture anywhere, guys. You can go find it on Facebook. So
We understand that, Josh. And thank you for.
So we have a motion on the table.
In a second.
May I say, can you hear me? This is Tim Ellis.
Yes, Tim.
May I say something before you vote?
Well, Tim, this is just to delay the decision to our next meeting.
Okay, all I want to do is say that I own properties on the west side and the south side of this property, and I have never received a notification of any of this process. One of my tenants did, but I would like to be on the list to be notified and be sent information as this moves through the process.
We'll put you on that list, Tim.
Tim, if the HPC makes a motion to start the formal process of designation, that is when written notice is sent to the adjacent property owners, but that hasn't happened at this stage.
Well, I had a tenant receive the notice a month ago.
I don't know what that was. That might have come from planning that the building was going through a demolition delay. But we wouldn't send those.
If I can be notified, I'd appreciate it, okay?
Absolutely, Tim.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. Let's move to voting. Dee, would you do the roll?
Okay, Jeff Golden,
Yes.
Deb Hutton,
Yes.
Lee Sandweiss,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
Chris Sturbaum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0-0.
Dee.
I'm here also. I joined late. Doug Bruce.
How do you vote, Doug?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So I
Okay,
had a two-part question if we can ever get back.
So, okay.
Good.
No. So for the 2025 of you that joined to comment in support of this demolition or in favor of saving the building, I'm sorry. You need to come back to the October 8th meeting to then have comment when this will be discussed. So if you would like to do comment, please, the links will be available and you can show up at the October 8th Zoom meeting and let us know your comments. Thank you.
Hey, Connor, which email can they send this to?
My email is herteric@bloomington.in.gov.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for all the members of the public who came this evening to talk about this property. All right, let's move on to Demo Delay 20-21.
Excuse me, could I ask the last of my question?
Oh, I'm sorry, Chris, yes.
Sure. So it's always a little muddy, and I think staff just was talking, legal staff was talking about not committing to drawings that were shown or any of those items. But should the petitioner commit to a drawing at the commission, at the Historic Commission, it still is my understanding that that commitment that the builder makes is binding when they make it under this, in this condition of this meeting.
That's for a COA.
Right.
Yeah, with demo delay, you are not allowed to consider what the future or intended use of the property is after demolition.
But
You're
what
just
if,
supposed to focus on the historic value or not historic value of the building that's being.
what if the petitioner chooses to propose a work that saves part of the building, knowing that that would influence the voting of the commission? He is allowed to commit to that, it seems to me.
Well, but I think you're not talking about demo delay anymore. I mean, I haven't been asked this question, so we'll have to look at it, and now we have a week or two, but it seems to me that it would be either a substantial or a partial demolition at that point. And maybe it would be a COA rather than demo delay, because demo delay is for full demolition here.
Yeah, there's no
Partial
COA.
demolition?
There's no COA because this isn't designated. So this is purely an entirely separate function with demolition delay ordinance. And I think what Chris is asking is can there be some kind of binding agreement if they say it in a meeting and agree to it? But I don't think that's a possibility.
Yeah, Philippa, we need to find that out.
Yeah, I don't think so either, but we'll have to look at it. Okay, Chris?
Well, and then, hey, this is Josh again, guys. Like, I mean, I know that, like I said, we've owned 2 of these buildings before. We've restored 2 of these buildings. So like, and I've said in the past that we didn't get here easily. And so we would be willing to work with you guys and preserve what we can, but there's got to be a middle ground in there somewhere, and we'd like to try to find it. And so we're okay with that. But especially if it helps benefit everyone from a time aspect, because I know we don't want to waste anyone's time, as I'm sure you guys don't want to waste anyone's time.
Great, thank you, Josh.
So we need to find a legal way to do any of that discussion, negotiating, commitment. And that's what I think we asked Philippa to come back with, perhaps.
Yeah, we will figure out how that works.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Chris. All right, let's move on to the Demo Delay 2021.
All right, this is Fort.
Doug, are you with us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
Oh,
420 East 12th Street, part of the Cottage Grove addition, which was platted from 1896 to 1905. The structure appears to be in fair condition. Cottage Grove was a potential historic district identified in the city of Bloomington 2001 interim report, but no action has been taken on that, so it's not currently designated as anything. Request is for a full demolition of the structure. Staff recommends releasing Demo Delay 2021 unless the Preservation Commission is prepared to recommend the establishment of the Cottage Grove Historic District. Staff doesn't find that the structure as an individual structure meets the criteria for designation.
Okay. Doug, do you have anything to ask?
I appreciate the recommendation. My tenure with this building began in the late 1960s. My parents purchased the property across the alley. You can kind of see it there to the left of the picture. And that was one of my first jobs, was to keep the hedge down and mow the grass. I understand that one of the commissioners has some history with this building. I think Doug Bruce might have some time with it. I think I'm a little more historical than Doug is, at least in age count. So I don't know that we overlapped during those early days very much with this. We purchased this building in August of 2019. It's in our fiscal budget to remove it this year. We purchased it with intent to demolish it. The previous owners were an investment group out of Greenfield, Indiana. The last tenancy here was a rough one. People stop and going all through the day, in and out. Other nefarious type things going on. Our tenants around the building, we own everything around it. We're concerned about the activity. Of course, the address on the building didn't really help matters much in that regard. And the police began to monitor it, and the tenancy left fairly soon after that, and it sat vacant for quite some time. A water line broke during cold weather, and some 42,000 gallons rolled through the building and out the back. It was essentially let go for some time. We haven't done anything to the building since we purchased it, other than to keep the grass mowed, trash picked up, that type of thing, and that we had no plans to further invest in the building. We paid a significant amount of money for it, simply to protect our investments around it. As far as the Cottage Grove Avenue, or I'm sorry, Cottage Grove Historic District goes, if you review the interim report, the Cottage Grove District does not include this building. It's some blocks away along 12th Street. So while I can appreciate the sentiment, it does not fall within that historic district study area. Happy to answer any questions. Again, I appreciate your service. I don't think you get told that enough. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for hearing our petition.
Thank you, Doug. Okay, so Chris, do you have any questions?
Yeah, is it to just be grass after you get done? Is that the idea?
Yes.
All right. Yeah.
Plant a tree or two?
I'm sorry?
Are you going to plant a tree or two, I said?
Oh, well, in time, my guess is in time when when replacement improvement happens, that there'll be significant landscaping issues or additions to that new building.
Right, thank you.
Yeah.
Jeff, questions?
No question.
Deb, questions?
No questions.
Lee?
No questions.
Doug?
No questions.
Derek?
Yeah, has the petitioner considered maybe selling the house or working with BRI on maybe restoring the item, or what's stopping that from happening?
We're not interested in maintaining the building on site. If BRI has an interest in moving it and using it, we would have no objection to that, as long as it occurred in some timely fashion. I would say within a calendar year.
Okay.
We would have no objection to that.
And Doug, next question would be, are you familiar with why this building would be rated contributing and what that means?
Yes, I'm familiar with the system. In my opinion, it's a matter of form and age. The rest of it has been, you may be familiar with this term, but Eisenhowered to the point that there's very little of its original elements left. The windows are different, the siding is different, the roof is new, but is nowhere close to anything original. The foundation piece is original. It's unusual that there are foundations to these buildings. One of the reasons we think there is because of the topography drop in the back. These buildings were generally built on stilts in this neighborhood. The water, this was something interesting I learned recently. The sewer system was put in 1922 and the water system in 1924. So these were all built with cisterns and an outhouse. And the integration of the plumbing areas into this building kind of support that. But in terms of its designation, my guess is that the leading element of including it, as it with most of the buildings around here, is strictly age.
Well, I think one of the other reasons typically is that it provides context, and it, in the sense that it allows the buildings next door to it to provide that context. And if you kind of take one out, then it loses, and that takes some time.
I'm sensitive to that. 2 doors down from this, we have a building like this with logs on it. My point being is that this particular section of 12th Street is compromised from its original form. Catty corner across the street are 2 second-generation post-World War II buildings. Something happened to the original buildings that were on there. Keep in mind they had coal stoves in these stilted buildings, and fires were prevalent, but there was no public water system to help put them out. So you lost a number of buildings. This is a mix in this particular block of modern and even moved in structures on the corner of Dunn and 12th is a U.S. home that was moved when the High Point development, which has been torn down and redone already, was brought in, and that building was set on a vacant lot. So it's kind of a mix mash of setting and in terms of continuity, you have to pick and choose which one you want to use in that regard. But I do understand what you're saying in terms of context.
Okay, and Connor, you did a 360, you know, if you stood around this building and did a 360, I mean, what does that mean? What's your opinion on its contributing nature?
Let me pull it up real quick. Let's take a look. I mean, yeah, each property adjacent to it, you know, is still part of the historic context. Some here, yeah, these are probably a little later. He says post-war, maybe, but I was thinking maybe a little earlier than that.
Oh, this is the area that I used, totally demolished everything around it as well, if I remember right.
So behind it, yeah, definitely. When you go down Dunn, it's, I mean,
yeah, once you go further east than this, it's a total wipeout. They've wiped everything out there. So
this is really the end of
I just
anything.
wanted to. Okay, yeah, there it is. All right, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Derek. Duncan?
Nope.
All right, thank you, Duncan. So, any members of the public have any questions? All right, hearing none. So we need to move forward with this. Do we have any comments? Chris?
No comment.
Okay. Jeff, any comments? Deb, any comments? Lee, any comments?
No, no comments.
Doug, any comments?
Sure. I would just add, I lived in this house for a while, but I guess that doesn't qualify it for any sort of historical status. I looked. My great grandmother, Lillian Tabor, lived in this house, and it was, I can't even tell you how long. I mean, I'm 57. I remember going to this house as a small child when the street was still brick, and Grandma used to talk about how the street used to be dirt. She worked at Indiana Bell when they first opened and used to walk down up the street and down to Indiana Bell to be a phone operator there. We're lucky the house is probably still here even today. It's a small miracle because when I lived there, my great grandmother was canning and was boiling wax or something and melting wax and went in to answer the phone. And the house is kind of a shotgun house on both sides. There's two front doors on the porch. I lived on the left side. She lived on the right side. And it truly was a shotgun house. It had been changed inside a bunch. The windows had been changed. So I agree with everything that Doug has said. But Grandma went in to answer the phone, and I smelled smoke and went running around the back porch and over to her side. She always left the door open, and her cabinets were on fire. She was sitting on the phone, frail as she was, just talking to someone and oblivious to the kitchen on fire. I put the fire out and carried the wax cooker out to the back porch because every time I took the lid off, it flamed up again. The basement was a mess. The foundation was a mess. She used to have the greatest briar patch and garden in the backyard. Of course, it's not there. She passed away while I was in architecture school in 88 or 89. So I just wanted to bring up a little bit of the history of the house. I do know it. I know it well, but I also know how much has changed as much as it looks so quaint from here. I couldn't imagine what the water damage would have done to it. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Doug. Derek, do you have any comments?
Well, based on that story alone, I'm ready to designate. But in all seriousness, I think it's tough. This is a tough one because it is sort of still it's contributing there. It's hanging in there. It's something to consider. I know it's not the most beautiful thing to look at. With that porch looks like it's about to fall off. The porch cover, but I'm just really hesitate at this point to just sign off on demolishing contributing buildings. And maybe this is something Doug and BRI can discuss further, but I certainly would recommend at least a conversation with Steve Wyatt and see what we can do.
Can I comment on that before you move on? I just looked up what Stansky and Horn paid for that property, and that's going to make that very difficult for BRA to make it work.
All right, thank
Yeah,
you.
Jeff, I don't doubt that, but it's worth at least
Well, we would not let, forgive me, John, may I clarify something?
Yes, Doug.
We are not interested in selling the property. That's not an offer that we're prepared to make. If BRI wants the building and would like to move it or use elements of it, that is perfectly acceptable, but we are not interested in selling the property.
Thanks, Doug. Duncan, do you have any comments?
Oh.
All right, hearing none. So we don't need a vote on this. Today, regarding the property located at 420 East 12th Street, the Historic Preservation Commission declares that it got notice of proposed demolition, and after today's discussion, sees no need to review the plans any further, and waives the rest of the demolition delay waiting period. The HPC may later recommend the property for historic designation to the common council. All right.
Second.
D.
Doug Bruce,
Yes.
Jeff Golden,
Yes.
Deb Hutton,
We must have lost Deb.
Yes.
There we go.
Lee Sandweiss,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
Chris Sturbaum.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0-0.
Great. Thanks, Doug, for being with us this evening.
Thank you all very much.
You're welcome. Okay. Let's move on to demo delay 20-22, 1706 South Huntington Drive.
So this is the request for a full demolition of an accessory structure. Whenever the accessory structure is deemed of the same era of construction as the contributing or notable or outstanding primary building, then a demolition delay occurs. So staff deemed that this was of the same era construction as the bungalow on the lot, which is around 1930, 1935. Yeah, it is what it is. It's a garage that is extraordinarily deteriorated. The walls are, bowing out, and you have a lot of rot going on, and staff would recommend demolition or releasing demo delay 2022.
Is there a petitioner here?
No.
Okay, perfect. Our petitioner's not with us this evening, but do we want to discuss this any further?
I didn't think we could hear it if the petitioner wasn't present.
We can for demo delays, but not for COAs.
I have no questions or comments regarding this.
All right, thank you, Jeff.
Connor, have you been to see it and it looks just as we see it in the photograph?
Yeah, I took those photographs.
Lee, do you have any questions or comments?
I have neither.
Okay. And Doug, do you have any questions or comments?
No.
Duncan?
Well, you all know I've always been an advocate for these ancillary buildings. And I can see in the picture that it's in pretty rough shape. I'm a little disappointed that the petitioner couldn't be bothered to be here. It kind of irks me, but, and I can't really evaluate whether it could be repaired or not, but from the picture, but I will repeat that I really appreciate it when we have a good structural report on these buildings that other people say aren't any good. So I appreciate that Connor went there this time and took a picture, but it doesn't tell me very much, to be honest, about how easy it would be or difficult it would be to straighten up this building and put some paint on it. So we're losing all of them, and I'm distressed by it. We dismiss them very easily.
You know, that's a good point, Duncan, and thank you for bringing it up. Maybe the next time that this happens and we have to do an evaluation on the building, then maybe Connor could get in touch with one of us and go out with them and look at it.
I think that's a good idea.
I'm always happy to do that, guys. But remember, this is just the first day of a 90-day demo delay. So this is, this is not something I'm going to go out and do a whole structural report on it before we even talk about it. If it's something that you guys want to investigate more, I'm happy to do that at a later time.
Thank you, Connor. Okay. Any more questions or comments?
Just a comment. What demo delay does is let us see these as they go. And, we honored the last building with memories about it and yet decided we can let that go. And I cannot see us designating a garage. I just can't see it. But at least it's true. Those old sliding doors were in my neighborhood and they've been replaced. They're pretty cool. It looks like it's sinking into the ground pretty big time. I've fixed garages like this, so it isn't impossible. But I do understand that sometimes it's time to say goodbye to those.
Well, and when the petitioner's not here, we don't have any leverage, or he doesn't get to hear what we think. He or she doesn't get to participate in the discussion, doesn't get to consider other alternatives. I just don't think we should be hearing it if the petitioner doesn't bother to show up. We don't owe that to them.
So the petitioner was extraordinarily upset that this was even going to a demolition delay.
Well, that's too bad.
Right, but what I'm saying is this is not one of those petitioners who are willingly going to show up and participate in the process if they don't have to.
Well, that's not my problem. That's his problem.
Exactly.
It's not his problem. He doesn't have to be here.
All right. Thank you for the comments. So let's just go ahead and release it if that's okay. All right. Today, regarding the property located at 1706 Huntington Drive, the Historic Preservation Commission declares that it got notice of demolition, and after today's discussion sees no need to review the plans any further, and waives the rest of the demolition delay waiting period. The HPC may later recommend the property for historic designation to the county council.
Second.
Thank you. Dee, would you,
Doug Bruce,
Yes.
Jeff Golden,
Yes.
Deb Hutton,
I couldn't hear John very well through the mask. So could you tell me the motion, is it putting it on to the next meeting or we're releasing it for demolition?
releasing for demolition.
Okay. Yes.
Lee Sandwise,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
Chris Sturbaum.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0-0.
Thank you. All right, I don't see anything under new business, but under old business, we have the Restaurant Road Design Guidelines. And Sam's not with us this evening.
I reached out to Sam after the last meeting and asked him to specify the pages he was talking about, the graphics that he wanted to get fixed, and I haven't heard back from him on that yet. So
we'll table this to our next meeting, if that's all right.
Yes.
Great with me.
Yes.
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 Thank you. Commissioner comments.
I'd like to, this is Doug. I mean, Duncan brings up a really good point and, you know, about having petitioners here. And I don't know if that's something that can be changed going down the road or changed even in the ordinance, because I think it's important for us to have any kind of dialogue and discussion. It shows that it's important to them, and it shows literally, I think, respect towards us and what we do. I also think Chris Sturbaum brought up an interesting point about this last case. The idea, you know, that we really haven't, or maybe we have, and I don't recall, saved an accessory structure like a garage. This one looked pretty far gone. I'd like to maybe have known a little bit more about it, but I was kind of swayed by that I don't believe that we have saved one to that extent without someone volunteering it. We've certainly had people come before us, maybe specifically in the Prospect Hill neighborhood, that have an accessory building that they're going to do something with, and you know, again, because it's of where it's located, they've got to come before us and we get to approve things. But it's interesting about the idea of saving or not saving an accessory structure like a garage like this. So I'd like to have a little more discussion on that. And maybe that's something we can even look at down the road as some sort of report on, you know, how many of these structures do we think we have that we might start to see? I don't know. Those are just my thoughts from tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate that. Felipe, can you look into that, if there's something that we can do to
Sure. Yes.
Great, thank you. Okay. Any public comments this evening?
May I ask a question?
Yes, Deb.
Well, sort of Connor, in terms of the Players Pub, in the packet that I suppose the public saw, because it was put up on the hand website for today's meeting, there were, I don't know, 5 or 6 or 8 of the public comments. But in the subsequent 2 emails you sent to us, there were, 20 more. So does that mean that in 2 weeks from now for October, will you be attaching all 30 or 40 in next meeting's packet, or we'll keep these for the future, or what?
I planned on just keeping the old ones and adding any new ones I get and attaching it all as part of the packet. So all of them are together in one place from beginning to end.
Thanks.
I have a question. Is there any way to look further into that photograph? It seems that those were more modern addition changes to an older building. And just because the outdated car was there, it didn't mean that was the year the car was made or anything like that.
Very true, Chris.
I didn't buy it.
Yeah, I don't buy that. Because when we look at this photo right here that Connor has up, we can see that both those doors have been blocked off. That one he's got the cursor at.
Yeah, and then this is the oldest photo I think we have of it.
Yeah, I think so.
It does show that building has changed significantly over the years.
It does.
And there might be an M here that we just can't see because of poor shading. You know, I mean, it could just be poor graphic quality as well. You may not be able to see it because it's hard to see the windows in this, but they look the same here, but they look different here. That's just poor photographic quality.
Or could some owner have painted over it for 5 years because they didn't like the M? Their last name was like Hutton and they had an H, and so they would get rid of the M?
Well, their last name was Boxman. I don't know. This brick doesn't look painted to me, but perhaps it is. It's hard to tell in the black and white.
Pretty sure that's a 51 or 52 Chevy, not a 42.
Yeah, I think you're right, Duncan.
I had a 54, looked a lot like that.
Didn't the petitioner ask what iteration we wanted to go back to? And I guess my question is, how far back would we have to go for it to be designated? What, 50 years? So if it's like in the late 60s, an iteration in the late 60s, or what it is now, you know, we're not going to turn back the hands of time, but yeah, this building's gone through a lot of changes. So whatever the appearance of it is now, everybody's recognized, and it has been that way for quite a long time. I don't know.
And there were some of the public comment, or a lot of it was more about Players Pub than the Boxmans or this building, or, you know, so I found that interesting.
Right, right. Well, it's got a rich commercial business and cultural history, but how long has it been Players Pub? 30 years?
Oh,
no.
Not even that long.
Less
Look
than
at
that.
these photos,
It was
lady,
the pit stop.
2010. You know, this is.
Yeah, the pit stop. I went there with my dad when he came to visit me in college.
Yeah.
So it's is complicated. The thing is, it's a structure that is so laden with business history, culture, especially because of Players Pub, cultural history, the music scene. Yeah, this is really complicated, but I think what's not complicated is that it's a really important structure.
And if you look at some of the pictures going on from what you said, Lee, remembering that Josh wanted to say, well, so what iteration if we agree to go back and do some kind of compromise? But there are some aspects that are common. So just looking at the Players Pub picture right now, we see the, I don't have all the architectural terminology, of course, but a lot of the windows with the upper level being slatted windows. If you look in the oldest picture, they were there too. If you look at the glass fronted boxed out door, even in the pit stop, they covered it with wood and plywood and painted it gray and then green, and then it got opened up more for the Players Pub. So there's sort of an aspect of that jutting out entrance, and they're sort of half of each. And some of the doors and some of the limestone over there. So there's some aspects of that are retained on and off or throughout that might be agreed upon as the essence of these two buildings, or maybe.
Yeah, the building to the south, the M building, that's the least changed. The deco, you know, curved windows come and go. The window to the far north, the one with the little, that window, it seems to be in more pictures than others. I think there's enough there to work with. I mean, whatever they end up doing with it, if they're willing, if we vote to move it to the Common Council to designate, they have a lot to work with, and it would, I think, it could be an interesting project for somebody who's creative, and it could keep people seem to be really interested in keeping this as part of Bloomington's built landscape, and I'm really in favor of that.
Connor, on the photo you have up right now, the side of the Mitchell Brothers building appears to be brick to me. It's certainly not slatting or, you know,
Hey guys, this is Josh again. That side there, it's not brick anymore. It's all wood. That what you're talking about, sir?
So if you tore down the siding, all you'd have left was wood?
Yes, sir. And so,
Okay.
yeah, and as far as like trying to save the front, there's about 8 different colors of brick in there as well. And so, in the window design, I'm sure that like those windows are all rotted, ma'am. And so like they're rotted beyond repair. They're single pane windows, so they're not efficient at all or anything. But I'm sure that we could try to figure out how to incorporate those in the design that we have. And you know, the slats at the top, I'm sure we could probably try to incorporate the vestibule concept. And Connor, I'm not sure if you're okay with sharing the kind of what the 2 pictures that there's that one. And so, and I'm sure we could try to figure out how to incorporate all the brick that's on the building in this design somehow. But we're not opposed to any of that at all. And sir,
Guys, I don't think we should be discussing this at this point.
Yeah, no kidding. We've already tabled it.
Right, exactly. So
Public is already gone.
yeah, I think we need to stop right here and pick this back up at our next meeting.
Let's do that.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Josh, for being with us this evening. I don't see anything else on our agenda, so I'm going to call for adjournment.
So motioned.
Thank you, Deb.
Thank you all.
See you guys next week, or 2 weeks. Thank you.